Alrighty. Well, you are probably watching this video because either A, you want to know what loadouts that I used during Ventures and how I completed it in 28 hours, or you're just wondering how I completed Ventures in 28 hours, which we'll go over both of those and those loadouts that I did use. So let's get into the actual whole Ventures. Ventures is out, of course. This modifier is always the best modifier in my opinion. Basically, there's 4 different modifiers, each on different heroes. We have the Super Soldier, which headshot damage, it gets a ×2 bonus. Range weapon eliminations reduce active cooldowns by 4 seconds, which is a really great thing to kind of like not manipulate, but you can use with soldier loadouts that make soldiers ultimately a better loadouts that you can't use in normal games, such as 160s. And then a frag grenade is equipped. Every 6 range eliminations grant a grenade, reduce melee weapon and trap damage. So if you are a soldier, sadly you do lose some damage when it comes to melee weapon damage and trap damage, but if you have other people that you're playing with, constructors actually have a buff against that, which we'll go into right now. Building costs are reduced by 66%, melee impact damage dealt is increased, and triggering kinetic overload reduces active cooldowns by 4 seconds, reduced weapon damage. So basically, if your base is going to do a lot more damage, and you have that reduced ability cooldown, which is kind of nice. And then we have the Super Ninja ability eliminations, increase melee damage and attack speed by 50% for 10 seconds, which is massively a lot of fun to use, especially with like Paley Luna and other, Whiteout Fiona, whatever melee loadouts that you're using. And the melee weapon eliminations reduce active cooldowns by 2 seconds. Shadow Stance's benefits are doubled and reduce range weapon and trap damage. So we're basically, every hero has kind of like its abilities and the buffs, and then it has their kind of like nerfs off to the sides, such as trap damage. So they're trying to tell you to do more damage with the abilities and less with trap damage. That's why it kind of feels like your traps aren't doing a lot, but and then we also have the Outlander anti-material charge, costs 0 energy. This is a really fun to use, and we'll get into one of the best loadouts to use in Ventures for this season. And then they gain a fragment every 50 seconds, passive 30% damage buff to active abilities, and reduce weapon and trap damage. So every single hero has reduced weapon and trap damage. Honestly, it's not even a big deal because you get those buffs throughout the different heroes. So those are the modifiers for this Venture season. And of course, it might seem like, oh, I'm not doing enough damage, but truly there is so many loadouts that you can use to finish this Venture season super fast and just have fun while you're doing it. But let's get into the loadouts. The first loadout we're going to talk about is Minigun. Of course, this is kind of like a well-rounded one, always used. It's one that people just use in normal missions. But there's different ways that you can use this. I personally just love running Commander Renegade in lead. Just, I love that 5-second minigun cooldown. But with this Venture season, you can actually run Diecast Jonesy in the lead, which turns your minigun into energy. But usually in regular loadouts, this will increase your cooldown by like 45 seconds, which gives it like a 50-second cooldown, which is just not fun. I personally don't like waiting that longer than it need. I could have a 5-second mini cooldown and just keep using it back to back. But the energy minigun turns it into a fun loadout, and it just overall makes it a lot better because of the reduced cooldown by getting eliminations, and it reduces it by 4 seconds every single time you do get one elimination. So instead of running Commander Renegade, you can run Diecast in lead, which gives you that energy minigun, and ultimately just get more eliminations, and you can reduce that cooldown to get that minigun back to back, and use it on the mini boss, smashers, or whatnot. You really don't get introduced into smashers until around like canny level, or sometimes you get it in Plankerton or like Plankerton level missions in Ventures, but it really depends. Otherwise, that's kind of the loadout, that minigun that you can use. I didn't really touch this loadout. I honestly, I have a way more favorite loadout that I like using during this Venture season, besides the minigun. But this is just basically a basic minigun. You could also replace fleet with like different things such as like Paley Luna. If you're trying to get melee eliminations, I don't know why you would be doing that. You can, but shock and damage, assault damage, stuff like that. You can even replace it with like Chaos Agent, which makes you reload whenever you use an ability, like your grenades. Otherwise, this is just a basic loadout. You do have to have Happy Holidays on your loadout, though. I do have to tell you that. Otherwise, you can run pretty much anything else. The only other thing is you want to replace, if you're running Diecast and lead, you want to put Renegade in the support slot. And then you also want to run this Ain't Done Yet, which increases your going commander duration by 5 seconds. Everything else is really up to you. You can run First Cup of the Day. I recommend it because it gives you that crit damage and that crit rating increase. So yeah, otherwise that is the minigun loadout. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. We are moving on next to my favorite loadout of the venture season, which ultimately this loadout should be used if you're trying to do high damage with a decent amount of like just having fun kind of feel. I use this loadout probably 90% of the time during this venture season. If you're wondering what it's like to do grind the full 28 hours, I'm thinking about posting my full 28 hours over on YouTube. I did it over on Twitch, my entire VOD, but we'll see. Might take a minute, but I'll deliberate if I want to do that. But let's get into this loadout. This is the Raven loadout. This loadout is ultimately just if you want to, use it for fun. Honestly, it's a great loadout. The reduced cooldown with the lefty and righty is a lot more fun than normal, because in one, if you're doing it in regular missions, you have the 50-second cooldown, which does not just work. You don't get enough damage out in regular missions, so that's why this venture season is a lot better to use this loadout, because you can do eliminations. One elimination, takes off 4 seconds of that cooldown, so 10 eliminations takes 40 seconds off, and you have to wait 10 seconds. So if you have a Xeon bow or a rocket launcher, you could just spam it, and then you get the lefty and righty back. And with this loadout, it's fun. But let's get into the loadout. Sorry for delaying it. So you want to run Raven in lead because he increases your lefty and righty damage by 25%, and it causes an explosion which deals 20 base energy damage in a 0.5 tile radius. So you're doing an explosion damage along with 25% increased damage with your lefty and righty. So Raven in lead is definitely what you want. And then of course we want Happy Holidays because you want the reduced cooldown with your with your lefty and righty. You don't, honestly, I keep saying you don't have to run it, but you do need to run it if you really want that reduced cooldown, because usually without it it's like 3 minutes, so you don't want that 3-minute cooldown. And then in the support team we have Pump Metal, which lefty and righty eliminations extends duration by 1 second up to a maximum of 10 eliminations. So this increases it by 10 seconds if you get an elimination. So each elimination is 1 second, and it can stack to 10 times, which adds up to 10 seconds. And then we have Where's Lefty, which every pistol or SMG elimination decreases the cooldown of lefty and righty by 1 second. Now, if you're using this loadout, you kind of want to use the pistol or SMG. This perk isn't something that you really need, but if you want to, if you want to get your lefty and righty a lot faster, then you can use the pistol or SMG. I personally use the sniper, the Xeon bow, or anything that's not this. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, but I run this just in case because I like having an SMG in my third slot or any of my slots. So if I do want to get the lefty and righty a little bit faster, I'll just shoot the enemy with the SMG and then maybe just finish it off with the Xeon bow. So yeah, and then up next we have Zip and Zap, which is Carbine, of course, and it applies Affliction, which deals 13 base energy damage per second for 3 seconds. So this is just Affliction damage, so an enemy you shoot will slowly die or slowly take damage over time because you've shot them. And then Absolute Stunning, which lefty and righty shots have a 37.5% chance to stun the target for 2 seconds. So not only you're doing a lot of damage and outputting that crazy explosion damage, you're also stunning the enemy. So if you're shooting a Smasher, the Smasher has a chance of getting stunned, and it's really good because if they're charging, then you can just stun them before they hit your build. So really good. And then the last perk, this is really solely up to the user of using this loadout. You can replace it with anything. I had assault damage because I needed AR kills, but you can literally run anything with it. Like I put Paleo Luna in it whenever I needed like melee eliminations. I even put Fleet in it if I wanted to move fast. If I needed shotgun damage, I even run Shrapnel Hun Hunter. If I needed more health, then I could run Survivalist. If I just need anything, then I could use this. And then of course this loadout also has Warcry, which is really good. So what I recommend is running lefty and righty, click it, and then shoot some enemies. And then while you're waiting for the cooldown for your lefty and righty, Warcry, shoot your Xeon bow or SMG, whatever you're using, and then you get your lefty and righty in back. And at the same time, you can get your Warcry again because you've already used that Warcry because, it's the same about the same amount of cooldown as, the lefty and righty. So if you kind of time it right, I'll try to show it how I do it. But if you time it right, you can get them at the same time, if that makes sense. Otherwise, this is my favorite loadout. This is the loadout that I use throughout the entire venture season, just about. So if you have any questions, I can answer them. I could literally tell you anything about this loadout. It's my favorite loadout, and especially this venture season because it just makes it fun. So yeah. And then next up we have the the farming loadout. So this is just an overall whatever you want to do. All I recommend is running Cass in the lead. That's all you have to do. Cass in the lead gives you that increased amount of additional ingredients. They have a 100% chance, which is really great, of dropping additional ingredients, and that's all you need because you have the infinite right click or the anti-material charge because it doesn't take any energy. So you can run anything in the team perk. You can run Blast from the Past, you can run Happy Holidays, or pretty much anything you want. And then the support team, I recommend running something that gives you health, because you're going to be farming. You could probably even be in storm if you're doing a resupply, or if you're doing anything that requires, like RTD, that one's, you could do that away from your team, and you can, you're going to be in storm. Then of course for the gadgets, you're going to want to run a supply drop because you're farming. You want to run the farming loadout. Now you don't have to run that. You can run any gadgets, and this applies for any loadouts, but of course you're going to be farming with this loadout. Coconuts, I mean, always a good thing. If you're in storm, you could use that, but if you're using blast from the past, you don't have to. This is ironically the same loadout that I use for FROSTNITE. Now this isn't the same loadout that I use for Ventures, because this is my FROSTNITE loadout and I had to switch it. But it doesn't matter what you use. That's my point. Support team literally does not matter what you're using, because clip and lead is all you need. So yeah, fun thing about the season. And then next up, we have the Paleo Luna loadout. Now this is really only if you're trying to do the melee eliminations a lot faster. I ran this probably once or twice just to finish those eliminations. It's just a basic Paleo Luna loadout with blast from the past, monster smash so I can get my health back, assassination so it gives me that extra melee weapon damage, corrosive strikes, which snares it causes affliction to the enemies, and then just the basic Saurian hide and Saurian might so I can get my damage, or I can get my shield or my armor up, and then I could deal more damage. But that's a basic loadout. I'm not going to go into it because this is a regular Paleo Luna loadout. And then finally, we have the last loadout, which is just a generic one, and I'm not going to get into it either like the Paleo Luna one. It's just a constructor build. I ran this very few times. Thank you to Archer and Invasive for running any other loadout but this, because they literally just ran constructors, and I honestly really want to thank them, because I'd lose my mind if I run constructors that much. But my loadout, when I did run constructors on like 4-player atlases or any missions that we needed more than one constructor or two, this is my loadout. I run Ice King in the lead. They would run either Base Kyle or Nox in the lead, or someone else besides Ice King, and we would try to do different constructors. But it's a basic loadout for the constructor. You got recycling, because I want to get my materials back that I use. Tough traps you don't have to use, but I like using just because I like increased trap durability. Future Mattio here, I want to mention something because past Mattio didn't, and someone brought it up to attention. I forgot the reason why you should be running tough traps, or the increases trap durability by 17.5%, is because any of your survivors that you're using in your survivor squads actually don't apply into Venture season. That's because you're level 0, and your power level does not matter in those zones. So your survivors are not applied to that. So that's a good reason why you should be running a Machinist Harper in your support team whenever using a constructor build. That's just a recommendation. You don't have to, but I do recommend it, because the increased trap durability is a lot better than having your traps die out halfway through a mission. That is not fun. Otherwise, I'm going to send it back to past Mattio. I know it's not necessary, especially if you're max trap durability in your survivor squads, but I just do it because I want to. And then we also have power modulation that I like running, because it heals my base. Lofty architecture, it just increases my building health. Electrified floors, which you don't have to run, but I do, because extra damage to enemies is a lot better than none. And then mega base, of course, which you should 100% run, because that one connectivity tile is a lot more than you think it will be, and it definitely is something that you should run. So those are all the loadouts. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you would change in loadouts, let me know down in the comments. These loadouts are not 100% like the best loadouts besides the Raven loadout, because this is one that I do love using. So I do recommend using this loadout in this Venture season. And if you want a video on how I finished Ventures in 28 hours, let me know, because I actually am down to do that video, because it's a blast doing this Venture season. I just have a lot of amount of energy of doing these the loadout videos, Venture videos, because it's fun doing. And thank you to the team once, of course, Archer, Awalry, and Invasive for grinding the full 28 hours and finishing Ventures that fast. We actually beat the record, our old-time record, which was like almost 29 hours, and we beat it about like an hour. So pretty cool. Otherwise, remember, if you're new, subscribe, like the video, turn on notifications for any further videos. I'll be posting more videos in the future. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one.